I felt like sort of robbed. Like, how do I not know that this beautiful, intricate part of my body is in me and has so much to offer? I used to have very painful periods that were just like horrific. I've had periods so painful that I vomited before.
In school, you just weren't taught about that. Whenever you're menstruating, I see you collect your blood. I've seen you paint with it, and I've seen you put on your face. What is the reason for collecting it? Hey everyone, welcome back to the Celia Lee Show. It's your girl Celia. So today I am talking about one of my favorite topic, which is menstrual cycles. And if you follow me and used to be my client, you know that I'm quite passionate about that topic. And period is actually probably one of the biggest taboo, and there's a lot of myths that we need to debunk, and a lot of we women, we do demonize period. So anyway, today I have invited a beautiful lady from another part of the world to talk about this topic. And in fact, I consider her one of the experts on this topic. So without further ado, welcome, Whitney. Welcome,
Thank
welcome.
you. So excited to be here.
Me too. So introduce yourself. Where are you from? What you do? Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm originally from Canada, but I live in the US now. I live in Atlanta, Georgia. I am a womb wisdom and healing guide. So I help women journey along their path to reclaiming the power of their womb, their femininity, coming into their power, and learning menstrual cycle awareness. So that is my thing right now.
Is this your full-time job?
No, I also work part time at a actually a women's center, a nonprofit here in Atlanta. So I do that as well, and that's so fulfilling as well. So I'm just into the women wellness. That's my jam.
I love it. That's probably why
Mhm.
we connected as well.
Yeah.
Okay, so your Instagram page is called Sacred Womb, is it?
Sacred womb
Sacred
connection. Hmm.
Women Womb
Yeah.
Connection. Okay. So I want to know first of all, before we dive deep into this, what is your story? Why did you start
Yeah.
this journey and stuff like that? Yeah, take me
Sure.
back.
So I have always sort of been very cognizant of my menstrual cycle. Like most women, I didn't get a lot of education about my womb, my period, none of that growing up. So I just sort of figured it out myself and, speaking with girlfriends and sharing stories and stuff like that. But I never really had any formal education or teachings when I was younger. So about 5 years ago, just before COVID, I started becoming interested in my sexuality more. So that's how I sort of entered into the womb space, into the Yoni space, was through my interest in learning more about my sexuality. And I read a book that I recommend for everybody. It's called Female Ejaculation in the G Spot by Deborah Sundell. It goes into so much detail about female anatomy, sexuality, sensuality, all that. So that was sort of my gateway into the womb world. And once I got there, I was like, oh my gosh, this is like a Yoni universe. Like there's so much to know. There's so much that I didn't know. And I felt like sort of robbed. Like, how do I not know that this beautiful, intricate part of my body is in me and has so much to offer beyond just, creating babies and bleeding every month and that kind of thing. So I just did my own personal deep dive into learning about menstruation, learning about my yoni, all the pleasure capacity that exists there is another component. I took courses to learn about the menstrual cycle because that in and of itself, I feel like a lot of women are undereducated in. We generally, some women don't even still know that there are full 4 phases of the menstrual cycle, like that,
Right.
like
Yeah.
something simple as that. So yeah, and then there's a spiritual component to it as well, that I love, connecting with, and yeah, it just led me on a trail that I couldn't turn back from. It opened up parts of myself that I just couldn't even have imagined, and that's what I want for all women, so that's
Yeah.
what I'm out there now trying to, share and inspire and educate and let women know like, hey, we have a powerhouse in us that is just waiting to be connected to. And it is a sacred connection, which is how I came up with the name Sacred Womb Connection.
I love that because for me, like you said, I didn't know there were four phases in the very beginning. I literally just thought, yeah, we women, we bleed for a week, done, that's it. And it's like I didn't know anything about the phases, I didn't know anything about the hormones, all of that stuff. And in school, you just weren't taught about that. You were just told that you bleed, and when once you get a period, that's when you can have babies, blah blah blah, things like that. And we get to a certain age, you won't get them anymore. And a lot of women, we, well, not myself, but they demonize it, they don't like it, which I get, because some people do get really bad period pains, which I want to ask you about this
Mhm.
later on. But I just also, for me, the way I started, what I'm definitely not where you are yet. I'm definitely still learning a lot about it. That's in the spiritual side of things. um i I read this book called In the
Mhm.
Flow by
Mhm.
Alyssa Vitti. Do
Yeah.
you know that book? Yeah. So read that during COVID, and I got obsessed. Became so obsessed with it. I was like, oh my god, like there's so much to know about the hormones and all of that. How we can sync our workout, daily life, and nutrition, all of that stuff. And that's when I became really like obsessed with it. And so I'm posting more about it, and really want to like integrate into my work, my personal training sessions with my clients. And but the thing is, a lot of women are still very skeptical about it. They're still like, I'm not sure. For example, if I say to them on your period, let's take a week off, they'd be like, oh, but then I'll gain all the weight back. It's almost like they're so programmed to think that it's not okay to
Yes.
rest. They have to keep doing like basically the masculine approach
Yes.
of doing things. So, but yeah, so okay, let me get into my questions. Let me just get in. So, for let's say, I want to know, what does your monthly cycle look like? As in, what do you do when you're in your period, when you're in your follicular phase, and all that. Let's go into that. I
Sure.
want to know how your look
Yeah.
like.
So, I basically try to align my life to my cycle now. So when we can start at the beginning of the cycle, which is menstruation. That's when the cycle begins. So when I am in the menstrual phase, I try to be as restful as possible. I'm very lucky. I work from home, so I get to sort of have a flexible schedule around that. And I know that's not possible for every woman.
Mm,
But I do take a lot of rest. I make sure that I'm really nourishing myself with foods that are like a lot of protein, high sustenance, making sure I try to get sleep. Definitely staying hydrated is another part of it. Like I'm really just so gentle with myself during that time. And you mentioned like a lot of women are like, oh, they don't want to take a break. And I get a lot of women saying that to me too. And that is a very
mm,
masculine way. And that is a way that we have sort of been indoctrinated living in a patriarchal society. So we are like we haven't really seen examples of women who got to take rest when they're bleeding. That's just not something that you're just taught. Like, hey, you got to keep going. You have to be just like a man who doesn't have a cycle to deal with. They have a 24-hour clock, so they're going every day on a very consistent cycle. Women are not that way. So yeah, taking rest is so important during that time, and it really does set you up for having more easeful periods. I used to have very painful periods that were just like horrific. I've had periods so painful that I vomited before, like they were really bad. And now I go through my period with I take no medication. I have no pain. I couldn't have imagined that having a period without pain was even possible, but it is. But you have to sort of really take care of yourself. Like that's what your womb and your body is asking for. If you were to say to someone, hey, you're bleeding from an internal organ, but I still want you to function like you're not, that would be absurd. Someone would think that's crazy because you're bleeding. So obviously you need to be gentle with yourself. You need to care for
mm,
yourself. That's
yeah.
not something that is out of like the ordinary to consider. So for women, we have just been so programmed that like, okay, we're bleeding, but it doesn't matter and we're still going to function like we did when we're not bleeding. That's absurd. Like that's really absurd if you really think about it.
I'll also say to people that because you're shedding right now, right? You're shedding the lining of the uterus, and so a lot is going on in your body. So your body is actually going through a lot of stress. Although some people might not have
Mhm.
period pains, but you're still going through a lot. And I do say to people, this is a time to really rejuvenate, like you said,
Mhm.
rest, take time off for yourself, take things slowly, and just be, like you said, be gentle with yourself. And this is part of the self
Mhm.
love and tapping into your feminine energy. And is this correct that you're more intuitive when you're on your
Yes, and
period?
you're it's like
Mm,
the veil of our consciousness is more thin when we're menstruating because we get to coil into ourselves.
mm,
It's like an inner winter. It's aligned with the season of winter. So in winter,
mm,
we're inside ourselves, deep in our heart, in our soul, in our spirits. It's a time for introspection, you know? And when you take that time, if you give yourself space for that time as much as you can, you have
mm,
the opportunity to then spring forward when it comes to, you know, your menstrual cycle being over, and then you have renewed energy since you've taken the time to, you know, recoil and rest and tap into those intuitive things and nature that all women have. It's just waiting for us to tune into it. Mhm.
mm. And also, when about the period when you're menstruating, I say to people, it's also it's magical because you're bleeding without dying.
Thank you.
That's like, I
That
think
is
that's
very
powerful. And also,
powerful.
yes, and also I was saying to people like, you do understand that when you're shedding, that basically you could have been a baby, that could have been a baby, but there wasn't a sperm, or we just wasn't conceived. And yeah, again, we are just magical being. We are producing something in here.
Exactly. And that also goes back to like the power of menstrual blood. Menstrual blood, people, women, men, everybody's have a connotation for it being dirty and waste
Mm,
and like filth that you just need to get rid of. They don't want to look at it. They don't want to touch it. It's a no. But as you said, like that blood would have created life had a sperm contacted your egg. That would have been the
mm,
lining of your uterus that the baby would have initially lived in, that the embryo would have initially lived in. That's how powerful it is. It has stem cells, like menstrual blood has stem cells, similar to
mhm,
those that are found in bone marrow and the umbilical cord. So this is really powerful, you know. This is how we all got here. This is the origins of how we all got here. And it is so
mm.
powerful.
And
Mhm.
yeah, so like when women get really bad
Mhm.
period pains, um, is it because I remember reading it somewhere. Yes, someone told me, but it's because that of unresolved sexual
Mhm.
trauma, some sort of trapped energy, bad energy that's trapped inside of you, and that is why you get really bad period pain. So this is going to like the spiritual side of things. Is that
Yeah,
correct?
I would say that's the case for so many women. And the thing
Mm,
is, sometimes it's unconscious. So if you were to ask a woman, "Hey, if you have period pain, severe period pains?" They say yes. But then if you were to ask them, "Hey, do you have unresolved trauma?" They may not be aware of it. They may not have had the time and
mm,
the space and the sense of safety to be able to explore that properly. And that's what it sort of takes. It's a holistic process. It's not just something where you're like, "Hey, my womb hurts, so I'm going to take this medicine," or like just try to cover it with a bandage. The womb doesn't work that way. Um, she's a very
mm,
mysterious entity. You know, she's where souls and bodies come to converge to come to Earth. So
mm-hmm,
it is a place where, if you think about it, all the trauma, if you're not processing it, you're just stuffing it down, 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 and where does it land? In your pelvic floor, in your womb.
mm-hmm.
She carries it all. And then, of course, it's
And
not
is
going to
it?
go well when she comes to menstruate. She's communicating with you like, hey, maybe we have something to look at here. You know, that's her way of communicating.
Mm, is it only sexual trauma, or is any
I
sort of
think it can
trauma?
be widespread. It can be across the
Mm,
board. It can be suppressed expression. It could even be to do with your
mm-hmm,
throat, not expressing yourself, not living authentically,
mm,
um, it's not being out of alignment in some way of your life. But it's always indicating something. It's always an indicator of something.
mm.
It's not only physical.
And could it also be nutrition related? So you lack some sort of nutrition. So because reading, let's go to the scientific side of
Mhm.
things now. So Alyssa Vitti in her book, she said reason why, so period pains, Cramps
Yeah.
are not normal, and it happens because, again, it's your body telling you that there's something
Mhm.
wrong with you. So in her case, the scientific way is because your hormone is imbalanced, so meaning there's a lack of nutrition somewhere, and so you might be lacking, I don't know, omega 3 or something like that. Well, in her case, she said it was lacking fatty acid or
Mhm.
something like that. And then all you need to do is just to up your omega 3 and fatty acid
Mhm.
intake, and over time, that will get rid of the period cramp.
Yeah.
So, what would you say to that? So, can we? Because sometimes, if someone has really bad period cramps, do we tell them about the nutrition or the
We tell
trauma?
them about it all because yeah,
Mm,
it's just it's not a simple like a one fix thing. It's your entire lifestyle. It's how you function in the world as a woman. That's what it really comes down
mm,
to. So nutrition is vitally important because that is what balances your and keeps your hormones running on a balanced level. I know for myself, I was vegan for 15 years, a long, long time, and then my body just said, no, this is not working anymore, and I listened and I started eating, incorporating some more animal proteins, and it changed my womb completely. It changed how my womb functioned. It changed how my hormones functioned. It changed my digestion, my womb, my menstruation. It changed all that. So nutrition is super duper important, especially if you are a menstruating woman, because you do have nutritional needs that differ throughout your cycle. So that's really important too. And that's a whole nother, topic.
Okay, touch on a little bit about that. So about the vegans, because I know a lot. I do know a lot of
Yeah.
vegan women out there. Some of my friends are vegan. So, and I tried to be vegan one time because, I mean, well, first I did
Hmm.
veganuary. I thought I did a challenge, but then after through my spiritual journey, like, when you read certain things about, oh, if you consume animal products, you're consuming these negative energy, things like that, and then you won't be ascending to your higher self and all of that kind of stuff. So like the alkaline diet, you should go for the alkaline diet. There's just so many noise
Hmm.
out there. So then I also hear that if you go fully vegan, as women, we need certain
Hmm.
nutrients. So tell me what changes, just maybe briefly. I know it's a big topic, but maybe tell me briefly, like, why do we need to have animal
Yeah.
products, in your opinion?
Yeah, well, I think number one that it's very individual. Like for your body, like you said, there's a
Mm,
million different ways to eat, and everyone's body is different. But for someone who is cycling, who has a menstrual cycle, there is in my experience, a protein component that is hard to achieve if you are a vegan. When I was a vegan, I do feel like that was part of the issue. So when I started eating more animal protein, it definitely help balance out my hormones. But as far as the cycle goes, when you're menstruating, obviously, like you said, you're shedding, you are losing blood. That's losing minerals. So you're losing, your iron. If you have iron issues, your iron goes down every time you menstruate. That's why it's super important for, especially with the iron, for energy. Um, when you're menstruating, to be consuming enough food that you feel sustained and that can sustain your energy levels. So when you're menstruating, definitely eating foods that are high in sustenance. That can be, meat or not, but it's just harder if you're not eating meat. In my experience, it was harder for me to sort of feel like I was getting enough, um, especially when I menstruated. And I feel like that can sort of create some hormonal imbalances. And then in the follicular phase, which is following menstruation, that's when your hormones start to rise. The hormones that rise are the luteinizing hormone, your follicular stimulating hormone, and estrogen. They all start to rise following your period so that you can get ready for ovulation. So in your follicular phase, you start to feel more energy. So you might want to exert more energy. You might want to work out harder. You might want to hit the gym more, go for a run, do things that are more invigorating. And that also requires food to be able to help you do that as well. And so it just changes throughout your cycle depending on what you're doing. And then once you come to ovulation, which is usually about the middle of your cycle, if you have like an idealized 28-day cycle, ovulation would be around day 14. So that's like the peak of your testosterone. So you might be feeling super high energy. You got peak of estrogen happening there as well. Like you're out, you're social, you're vibing. And maybe then you don't feel like you need so much food, like you don't need as much, like you can go with salads and things like that, things that are more light, because you feel like the boost in your energy. And then after that, ovulation ends, the hormones will drop, and you will go into the luteal phase, which lasts until you menstruate again. And that's a time, once again, where you start to slow down. It's like your inner fall. So you might start craving more food. That's when women start to have, the cravings before their period, because your body wants to prepare for that release of the blood if you don't
Mhm.
get pregnant. And if you were to get pregnant,
Yeah.
then you would need to sustain a baby. So, yeah.
Mm. So for like, if you have cravings, is it right? Is it right to basically eat more like vitamin B's? So, for example, like sweet potato. So this will help curb the
Yes,
craving.
exactly. And to eat things like there's always like the jokes and stuff about like, oh, women want chocolate or they want like sweets and sugar and stuff like that. But that, I mean, that is true for a lot of women, but at the same time, it doesn't really help with the hormonal balance if you're having issues with that. So definitely eating foods like you said, like sweet potatoes, if you're eating meat, things like that, making sure you're drinking like tea, water, staying hydrated, getting enough iron, minerals, zinc, all of that is super important, especially right before you menstruate. And your body actually, when you
Mm.
get close to menstruation, for a woman, if you're menstruating, you actually require more calories, which is why you crave more food. Your body is
Mm-hmm.
preparing.
Because your metabolism sped
Exactly.
up.
Exactly. So
Mm.
women are like, "Oh, I don't want to eat because I don't want to eat more because I don't want to gain weight." But it's like your body is actually requiring more because it's preparing to do a very,
Mm.
intense sort of event, which is to shed the lining of your uterus. Yeah.
Yeah. And also, because your metabolism has naturally increased, you're burning more calories. So you actually do need to eat. It's actually balances it out. You do need to fill in that sort of like the calories that you've lost, basically. You need the energy as
Exactly.
well.
You need that energy. And
Yeah.
yeah, so
Mm.
suppressing yourself and being like, "Oh no, I don't want to do this," is actually more detrimental than actually eating the foods
Mm.
that would be, beneficial in helping you to create that smooth transition into menstruation.
And also, like, and if you're starving yourself, you're hungry, you're not eating, you're gonna be moody. So then you give an excuse, like, some men be like, "Oh, guess what? She's coming on period. That's why she's keeping being moody because you're not
Exactly, you're
eating."
not eating, yeah. Yep. Mhm.
Yeah. Talking about like, how we would say, "Oh, the week before, when I know I'm coming my period soon because my mood
Mhm.
changes, I get angry or I get
Mhm.
agitated, right?" Something came to me, and it sort of made sense to me. But let me ask your opinion. For me, it's like your truth is coming
Mhm.
out during that time. So like something's coming up, unresolved issues. That's why you're angry or agitated, and because in your follicular phase, you're more like lenient. You're like, yeah, whatever. But now when you're luteal phase, you're like, no, like you're
Mhm.
just, yeah, truth comes out. So that's why when I make decisions, whether it's maybe like a dating or relationship, I'm like, let me just wait till my luteal phase and my menstruating. Let me see how I feel, and I know the truth.
It's so true though. There is no honesty like the luteal honesty. It's
Mm,
honestly one of my favorite. I don't know, they're all my favorite phases, but that part of the luteal component is just priceless for women. And that is part of the thing
mhm,
when women say like, "Oh, I'm so bitchy," or "I'm so this," or "my period," but they're not tuning into what is the root cause of why you're feeling angry, bitchy, moody, whatever. Your body, your womb is trying to signal to you, hey, there might be some things that aren't in alignment here that we could look into and try to rearrange so that maybe this could become more manageable. And you might notice from cycle to,
mm,
to cycle, it changes. So maybe one cycle, you're just breezing through your luteal phase. You don't feel, the extreme highs and lows. You're just like breezing through because maybe you're more in alignment. Your life is more in alignment. But if not, your luteal phase will come for you and let you know in all the right ways. Like she is not joking around. And there are ways also to, for me, what I have done that's really changed my luteal phase is express those things through like dance, through journaling,
mm,
through raging, like getting a pillow, pounding it, screaming into the pillow. Like you have
Mm-hmm.
to let it out. It wants to come out. It doesn't want to be in there, stuffed in
Yeah.
there, acting like the good girl, holding in your truth. We're done. We're done with that. It needs to come out. It wants to come out, and it deserves to come out. Your true feelings matter, and your luteal phase is here to share that with you. There's no hiding in that phase.
Guess what, ladies? Whitney has kindly offered 50% off of her digital products on her Etsy store for the Celia Lee Show listeners. Yes, for you lot. So if you're interested, go to the show notes and click on the Etsy link. It will take you straight to her Etsy store. Then all you need to do is enter discount code podcast. All right, let's get back to the show. Yeah. And you know what? A lot of times why we women, we suppress those emotions because we always hear, oh, she's moody again, she's bitchy again. And it's almost like we feel like, oh shit, we can't be like that because we won't be liked. But that's the dark feminine energy.
Mhm.
We need to embrace that part of us. And it's not necessarily bad. It's not bad, obviously, unless you're hurting someone, but that's different. That's obviously that is bad. But there's nothing wrong with expressing our emotions because, like you said, we need
Yeah.
to. We gotta let it out. And it's good for our mental health as well.
Exactly. And it is part of the cultural conditioning of women being quiet and nice and agreeable. That's part of it too. And it's like the air we breathe as women. We're not even aware of it. We're not even aware like, hey, there's another option that I'm not just a one-dimensional person who's always nice and always quiet and always doing what I'm supposed to and always do make everyone likes me. Like there's another part to being a woman. Like it's a full all-encompassing thing. You don't have to be just one thing. Like sometimes maybe you are that way, and then other times your true emotions may be otherwise. Maybe you have something to express. Maybe there's a boundary that's being crossed. Your womb is so beautiful in helping you to find your voice. That's another thing that really helped me once I came onto the womb connection path. Is that your womb and your voice are so connected. Yeah.
Mm. Another thing going back to when you're menstruating, so obviously because we are like
Mhm.
shedding, and some women they cry, they get really
Mhm.
emotional, and again something came to me is saying that that person is
Mhm.
purging.
Yeah,
Is that right?
exactly. Yeah, because
Yeah.
your
Yeah.
emotions need, you're coming out, you're bleeding, you're crying, you might be, however it comes out, it's as you said, you said dark feminine, so it is part of the dark feminine, but it's also just part of the wild feminine. Like if you think of Mother Nature, she's wild, she's erratic, she's unpredictable. It's not always one thing. Sometimes you might need to cry and, scream, journal, like do whatever to let it out. It's the suppressing it that causes issues, like you were saying with the severe menstrual cramps and stuff like that. It's the suppression, usually, that's a lot of times a main component of how those issues start to develop. Hmm.
Mm. So okay, just to clarify, so when we're
Hmm.
menstruating, should we exercise?
Oh,
Do you
I do not
exercise?
exercise. No, I don't. And I don't want to
Yes, same,
exercise.
same.
Because once you really start to tune into your womb and your body, you want to just rest. Like, and that's okay. It's okay. I
Mhm.
know we live in also, a society that's go, 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 go all the time. Capitalism has us just driving to the core like all the time, but it's okay to rest. You're bleeding, you're menstruating, resting is perfectly fine. And then you can come back even stronger. So yeah, I don't exercise, and
Mm.
I do some stretching though. Like it feels good. If it feels good to my body, I will do some like light stretching, maybe some yin yoga, more, sort of restful things, just more like grounding activities that are slow and
Mhm.
gentle. Those are the types of things I do when I am menstruating.
Yeah, so same. Especially because my I menstruate for
Hmm.
typically 7 days. So especially the first 3 days, I don't do anything. I literally just take easy, rest. Even when it comes to work, I would try to schedule things like that's more like maybe writing newsletter, things like less meetings and things like that. I drink cacao, ceremonial graded cacao. And then if I wanted to go do something, I might go to walk
Hmm.
in nature. Maybe on my fourth and fifth day, I would then go to gym and do some
Yeah.
Pilates, more flowy stuff, my own thing. Maybe like you, a bit of stretching, just something that's more flowy and slow, and put some and have the music I have on is always like Sabrina Claudio, like Janae Aiko, like just really take it slow. It's just so nice. Yeah, because like on Instagram and you see these like videos about personal
Mhm.
from personal trainers, these fitness influencers. They would say people ask them, should we
Mhm.
work out on our periods? And I think this topic has become more popular now because I do see more personal training addressing that issue. But they obviously did come from a scientific point of view. They'd be
Mhm.
like, yes, you can, but just be easy on yourself. Just take longer breaks and just go
Mhm.
lighter. And I'm like, I don't know. It kind of annoys me because I'm like, no, you're not getting. Stop trying to like. You just like
Yeah.
be gentle and be on yourself because it's sort of like it's telling the women like you're not telling them to rest. You're not telling them it's
Mhm.
okay to rest. Like you said earlier, just tell the women it's okay to rest, okay to take
Yes.
a week off, and yeah. And I think people need to know more about the woo woo side of the
Yeah, I
menstrual
agree.
cycle.
And the thing is with women, just because you can work out, like we're women, we're so powerful. Our bodies are so capable of so many things. We're so strong and capable. So you can work out on your period. I'm sure most women could, but that doesn't mean you necessarily should. Like that's a component too, you
Mm,
know? Just because you physically can doesn't mean that you have to or you should. Like it's about options.
mm,
Like if you want to rest, and you're really tuning into your body and it's saying, hey, I need to rest because I'm shedding, I'm bleeding. It's a time when I want to just be inside with myself, just learning about my own inner landscape, my own inner feelings, my own inner world, then you should be able to do that. There's an option to do that. You don't have to always be pushing through and giving full effort all throughout your menstrual cycle. And when you do learn to live in accordance with the cycles, it becomes a very beautiful rhythm to be in your menstrual cycle. Okay, you're taking it easy, you're taking it more calmly, you're being gentle. And then your follicular phase comes and you feel the rise of energy and it's like exciting. You're like, "Okay, we're back in it. We've hibernated, we're ready to go." And then you peak at your ovulation, and then you're in full blossom. You're like out there socializing, you're feeling good, you're doing your creative tasks, and then down you go, a beautiful flow down into your luteal phase. And it becomes a very beautiful rhythm. Like it's like the moon, it's just like you're circling within yourself. And it becomes so
mm.
beautiful.
Can we talk about ovulation
Mhm.
quickly? So, like you said, ovulation is basically a time when you're more sociable. You want to go out there because basically this is really basically the time our body wants to create life, wants
Yes.
to mate, basically. So our energy. Don't tell me what you think. Our energy is basically we radiate this. We have this
Hmm.
magnetism, we magnetic energy, and for me, I feel
Yeah.
more sexy in
Mm,
that time.
I agree. I,
Yeah,
because all
yeah.
your hormones are, like you said, priming you to create life. And in
Mm,
order to create life, generally you would have to have sex. You know, so
mm,
they your hormones are pushing you to go out there, to be more social, to be more, flirty, open, playful, all that creative. And you can use that either with sex, like to engage in sex, or you can use that in your life and just channel that energy, that creative energy and that high energy into your life, and to create projects or to socialize or
mm,
to, do other tasks besides sexuality. Mhm.
yeah. So I want to talk. So I've seen on your Instagram you do all the ritual stuff. So I want to move on to that. Whenever you're menstruating, I see you
Yes.
collect your blood, and then you do certain things with
Yes.
different stuff with it. Now I've seen you
Mhm.
paint with it.
Yes.
Is that right? And I've seen you
Yes.
put on your face. I actually have seen people put it on their
Mhm.
face as well before. Now I have started to collect my
Mhm.
my blood as well with the what do you call that? The
Yep, yep.
cup thing, the menstrual cup. And but I
Mhm.
stopped doing it now. Reason being because someone told me that the
Mhm.
suction of that cup is dragging uterus down. So it scared the hell out of me. I was like, oh my god, I'm not having that. Like just the sound of it, like
Yes.
uterus is dropping,
Yeah.
it just put me off. So I have not used the cup
Mhm.
for a while now. But I think I'm gonna move on to the
Mhm.
period panties. So you collect it and then squeeze it all
Yeah.
out, or wash it all out. But anyway, why? What is the reason for collecting it? Like your reason for
Yeah. Well, I
collecting
just
it?
want to say one thing about the about your cup, and collecting it.
Okay.
I actually don't use a cup and I don't use a disc. I collect the blood straight from my vagina into that glass jar. Yeah, I just once
Okay.
you become really like if you become really in tune with your womb, you I can actually feel when my uterus is contracting and I can get the cup and I actually
Yeah.
just like collect it directly from my body. So that's an option just if you don't want to
Oh.
have, cups and stuff like that. So
Mm-hmm.
you can have the, period underwear on and then you can when you get up and you feel like okay, might be coming out now, you can get the cup and you can just collect it directly from your body. So that's what I do. Yeah.
Mm. So I collect it, and I used to like go to the park and then pour it into either the lake and then do like a little
Mhm.
ritual, like set intention, or back
Yeah.
into the earth. Do
I
you do
do
that
do
as
that.
well?
Yeah. So you asked why I collect it. So I collect it
Mm.
because I initially started collecting it because I want to learn my womb. I want to engage with my womb. And because my womb is inside, it's internal.
Mm-hmm.
I can't see it. So what I can see and I can experience is my menstrual blood. And I know that it's very powerful. So I started collecting it. And initially I was just collecting it and just putting it on my altar. And I was so fascinated by it.
Mm-hmm.
It just, if we're talking about the spiritual component of it, I just feel like it just draws me in and it's just a gateway to like another world. I really do feel that way. It's so just full of life giving and life sustaining magic. So, yeah, that's why I started collecting it. Um, and now I paint with it. I do create paintings with it. And it's just something so beautiful to turn something that is so stigmatized and that has such taboos around it for myself. And
Mm-hmm.
that was my own story too. I did grow up in a situation where I never talked about it, even with my mom. We never talk about my menstrual blood and growing up. And it was so taboo. And it's like I just got to reclaim it for myself as something so beautiful. And now I create art with it. And it just changed the whole dynamic of how I think and relate to myself and my period and my menstruation. So, yeah, it's so powerful. And it's also an indicator of health. So, most women, if you're using tampons and pads and stuff like that, you bleed and then you very quickly take it out or fold it up and then you throw it in the garbage. You have no idea what your blood looks like. You have no idea the consistency, the quality, the quantity, none of that. You just would never know because you're not really getting to see it because it just sort of comes out of you and then it's over. So when you do collect it and you
Mm.
are starting to learn it, you get to learn your own blood. And from cycle to cycle, it can change. Like if you have a cycle where you're maybe have a lot more things going on, if you're more stressed, maybe the thickness changes and you notice that. And then another time when you're feeling more in flow and more ease in your life, maybe it's the consistency is more soft, maybe the color is different. Like there's very subtle changes that happen in your menstrual blood that you can only see if you actually, look at it on a consistent basis because it's yours and
Mm.
it's unique to you. So it is a vital indicator
Yeah.
of your health as well. Mhm.
Yeah. Um. Sorry, you kind of. I don't know if it's just. I don't know about your end, but on my end, you kind of
Oh,
froze for a second, for a bit earlier. So I just want to go back to quickly. So, um, when you collect the blood, what's the main reason that you collect the blood? Is there like a ritual? I know you said you want to see
yeah.
because of creating
Yeah, I mean, I just collect it
paint, but yeah,
because I want to and it's mine and yeah, I
yeah,
do feel like there is a spiritual component to it. I put it on my altar, I meditate with it, I do different rituals with it. Um
mm,
and it just reminds me of my power. It reminds me that I'm a life creating being and yeah, it's sort
yeah.
of a symbol of that, a symbol of the power that women hold collectively and it's just so beautiful. So, yeah, I
Mm.
love collecting it.
And when you paint with it, is it just something? It's like a hobby, or is it something that again, it's a spiritual practice of like,
Yeah, it's a spiritual practice, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, it's a spiritual practice.
Mm,
I like to, like, set my room, set an intention. I like to,
mm,
yeah, meditate before I do it. So I create a whole ritual of it, and it's also a really nice way to celebrate my menstruation. And it's also something where obviously I cannot paint if I'm not bleeding. It's like a finite source. So
Mm.
it adds a level of excitement and like looking forward to my menstruation rather than, when I wasn't doing that and I didn't have this relationship with my womb. It was sort of like, oh, you dread your period, oh, you can't wait till it's over. But now it's like, oh, I get to create something so beautiful with my blood and go into this ritual space just by myself, with myself and my creative capabilities. And it's just been such a lovely way to sort of celebrate that time and connect with my menstrual cycle, which is so powerful. Yeah. And also
I
your
love
self
that.
love. It's
Yeah, I love.
like, oh, this is mine. I created it. I created the blood and I created the art. It's me?
Oh,
Hmm.
I love that. Yeah. And then
Yeah.
the face mask,
The face mask. Yeah. The
the
benefits.
benefits.
So your menstrual blood
Mm.
has tons of stem cells in them. Like I said, it's similar to getting stem cells from bone marrow or an umbilical cord. There are peptides, electrolytes in there, minerals, nutrients. It's full of all sorts of regenerating cells. And when I first started, it was weird. I will say it was weird. It wasn't like I was just like, "Yep, put it on there," and I felt. It took some time, but now I absolutely love it. I can't wait. It's like I just can't wait for my menstrual cycle to happen, for my menstruation phase to come because
Mhm.
I have ritualized so many elements of it that now it's just like a whole grounding ritual for my month every month where I can just go in and get to do
Mm.
all these things with myself and for myself. And it's really just been so beautiful. So I do use the menstrual blood,
Mm.
yeah, as a facial.
So talk me the routine. So how do I do it? Say if I want to start doing it, what do I do? Do I wash my face first, add a toner, and then do it at nighttime or daytime? How does it work?
You
How long
can
do I
you
leave it
can do
on
it
for?
anytime. Just like make sure your face is clean. So I usually will wash my face first, and then I'll have the jar just
Hmm.
just your menstrual blood. So you don't want anything mixed in there, just your menstrual blood. And then you can
Hmm.
just I just use my fingers and take the blood and just put it on the face, put it on your whole face, and leave it on there. I usually just leave it on there until it dries. Like I don't want it to be like peeling off, like totally peeling off.
Hmm.
So that's usually maybe
Hmm.
like 10 minutes, 5-10 minutes for it to dry. Yeah, and then just wash it
Hmm.
off. You can either go in the shower or you can wash it off in the sink. And you will notice that when I
Hmm.
do a menstrual facial, my skin is so glowy and so clear. I can't tell you. It's just shocking, honestly. It really is.
Yeah, I can see.
Yeah,
Even through the camera, it looks
yeah,
nice.
it really does. That's why I love it so much. I'm like, ooh, like if my skin's getting a little activated, because sometimes when you're coming up onto your period, your skin will get breakouts and stuff like that. So if it gets a little, fiery in my skin, I'm like, oh, well, I'm gonna bleed soon, so I can do the facial, and like, it's a whole ritual. So yeah,
You know what? I'm going to start
do
doing that.
it. You're gonna love it.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you preserve the blood for the rest of the month, or just you only do it the week of your
Yeah,
when you're menstruating?
I usually only do it the week I menstruate. I'll collect the blood and then I'll keep it in the fridge sometimes for maybe up to
Mm-hmm.
like 5 days if I'm gonna paint with it. But I also have collected blood that I keep in my freezer just in case I ever want to like paint and I don't have any. Um, so you can keep it up into your
Mm,
in your freezer for months, probably longer. Yeah, so that's an option too. But the blood
yeah.
itself, it'll start to thicken and like coagulate if you just leave it out if it's not in the fridge or something. So it only lasts for so long
Mm,
once it's outside of the body. Yeah.
yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. So you keep talking about a relationship with your womb. So that
Yeah.
basically womb connection,
Mhm.
like your Instagram name. So people might be thinking, yeah, but what do you mean? How do you talk to your womb connect to your
Mhm.
womb? How do you connect with it? What
Yeah.
would you tell a
I would
newbie?
say that the best way to start connecting with your womb is to first just find a place where you can sit in silence and stillness and just put your hands on top of your womb space, just in your pelvis, right underneath your navel. and just start to just breathe and feel what comes up when you connect with that area of your body. Just see what comes up for you.
Mm-hmm.
That would be the best place to just begin. It doesn't have to be anything super intricate. It doesn't have to be anything difficult. Just put your hands on your womb and start to breathe and see how it feels. And from there, our wombs
Mm-hmm.
generally just want the space to be able to connect with us, to be able to express through us. So, creating stillness and creating an environment where you can really connect with that part of your body. Also, just thinking about relaxing the muscles of your yoni. So, actually, just relaxing your vagina muscles, your pelvic floor muscles, and see how that feels. Because maybe a lot of women were carrying a lot of tightness there and we have no idea because we've never tuned into that area and we have no idea what condition it's in. So
How
yeah,
do we
so just
relax
think of
it?
like if you're thinking of when you go to urinate in the bathroom and you relax your muscles so that the urine can flow out, it's that
Mm-hmm.
same sort of sensation. So you're just thinking of just consciously
Mm-hmm.
breathing out, and just relaxing like as if you were going to urinate and you're just relaxing all your muscles there and feeling how that feels. Yes. You
Mm-hmm.
can also do massage, womb massage externally. So getting castor oil, which can be really helpful also if people have cramps and stuff like that, and starting to massage that area,
Mm-hmm.
starting to really tune into that area. Because as women, many women haven't even ever. Some women have never looked at their yoni, at their vulva. They have never interacted physically, touched, given a massage to that spot, that place right above your pubic bone, where your womb sort of rests. So just
Mm-hmm.
starting to massage, starting to connect with that area and seeing where it leads you. And then throughout the day, you can just do something simple. You're working or you're out doing whatever, starting to bring your awareness to my womb. How does my womb feel right now? What does this area of my body feel like? You know, just simple stuff like that. Yeah, that's a great
Mm-hmm.
place to start.